This Bank of England statement is really serious. And for many people, they'll be worried about their mortgages, about prices rising. They'll be now worried about their pensions. And sometimes a crisis is because of some world event that can't be controlled. This is a government that's lost control of the economy. It's self-inflicted harm in Downing Street. And, we absolutely need now for Parliament to be recalled, for them to abandon this budget before any more damage is done.
We've seen the statement from the IMF. They have some very clear warnings about inequality in the UK. Given that, should the government be increasing benefits in line with inflation this autumn?
Well, the first thing the government needs to do is to recall Parliament and abandon this budget, because for many, many people, their mortgages, their prices, their pensions, they'll be really worried about this. And, for what? That budget on Friday, for what? For unfunded tax cuts for people earning hundreds of thousands of pounds.
And on that specific
people are now
point,
suffering the consequences or facing the consequences.
And on that specific point, for the people who are really struggling, those who earn the least in society, should the government be uprating benefits in line with inflation, in your view?
Well, I think the government has simply got to come back to Parliament and abandon this budget, because you can see what's happening in the markets. And the markets aren't some abstract thing. These are investors with huge amounts of money, and they've lost confidence. The government needs to now come back urgently and abandon this budget.
Yeah. Is there a reason you can't say yes to that question? Because those are the people you spoke a lot about in your speech, those working people often on universal credit. I'm asking you a very clear question about whether their benefits should be uprated in line with inflation this autumn, something the government has said it would do, and you can't say that that's something Labour would want to see.
Well, I'm not saying I can't say it. Of course they should be increased. Of course that's right, and it will happen in the autumn. I've got no problem with that at all. But at the moment, there's a very urgent problem that's going to affect everybody. You can see what's happening with the markets. And I can't believe the government is just going to sit back. It has got to recognise that what it did last Friday has had this effect on the market. It's now very serious. The Bank of England has stepped in today. The Bank of England obviously made a statement earlier in the week. The IMF made a statement this morning. This is self-inflicted damage by Downing Street. It's not some world event. It's self-inflicted. And I think many people watching this will not just be frustrated, they will be angry, because for the sake of an unfunded tax cut, for those earning hundreds of thousands of people, many other people, working people, are now so worried about their mortgages, their prices, and now their pensions.
Well, on that, working people, given what you've just said about uprating benefits in line with inflation, should those in the public sector get an inflation rate pay increase?
Well, look, all the negotiations in the public sector go on according to the cycle of negotiations. It's for those in the negotiations to decide exactly what the right rate is. It's not for me to do that.
But why yes for one and not for the other?
But I completely understand why people who've had their wages, pretty flat for the best part of 10 years, now facing higher, prices, mortgage problems, etc., why they're anxious to get a pay increase. But the cycle will go through, the negotiations will go through, and those negotiating on their behalf will go for the best settlement they can, depending on the circumstances.
But why yes for one group, those who are on benefits, but you won't say yes to the same for working people? Because
the first is determined by the government. The second is subject to negotiation in each of the sectors. That's the way it is every year. And there will be, by the autumn, hopefully some outcomes of those negotiations.
You want to be the government, therefore people are looking to you to find out what it is that you're offering. A recent poll suggests that only 35% of people really understand what Labour is standing for here. You have a mountain to climb before you can win an election. A lot of work to do, don't you?
Well, I think if you contrast this Labour Party conference just come to an end here in Liverpool, where I think pretty well everybody who's been here at the conference has said this is a confident Labour Party that's done the hard work in the last 2 years to change the Labour Party, remake the Labour Party, so we can look at the electorate with confidence, they can look back at us with confidence. Having changed the Labour Party, now this week we've set out our plans for Britain, to change Britain for the better. And contrast that with this government that's been in power for 12 years, there's been almost no growth in the economy, and last Friday they lost control of the economy. And this government can never again claim to be the party of fiscal responsibility. They're the party of fiscal irresponsibility.
I have one final question for you. You have in the past, and I apologise for saying so, been called boring. Given what's happened in the markets, given what's happening in politics at the moment, is it actually time for Mr Boring?
If anybody thinks that a government that loses control of the economy is somehow exciting, I think they need to go and speak to the people who will be looking at their mortgages today, looking at prices today, now looking at their pensions today, and say that they think that sort of excitement is what they want. I think they want a serious politician, a serious Prime Minister who understands with a careful, competent, confident plan to lead Britain through this crisis. And so I just don't agree that what people need at the moment, this is not exciting. This is causing people real concern.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
Keir Starmer, thank you very much.